This is day 2 at PMI London, and I'm talking to Pete Campbell from Kaizen. Pete has just finished his session, and we'll talk about what he did in his session and a bit of a performance marketing as well. So, Pete, if you could tell me a bit about your session, sort of for those people who have not been there to see it, what will be the key takeaways from it?
Okay, so the main kind of principle of my session was to talk about where SEO is now and where it's going. So Google is having to radically change the type of listings they show in the search engine to be very much app focused and also API focused, and looking at data that's on sites and presenting the answer rather than actually sending people to a website directly. So the main focus of the talk was ways in which you can do that, essentially.
Okay. You talk about the switch in SEO and open data. Sort of what consequences does that have for the industry?
Well, on the face of it, it probably seems pretty scary because it means the dynamic is changing. A lot of brands have been investing a lot of time in their website as a channel to drive a lot of their revenue, whereas now the focus, if it's a transactional business, definitely much needs to be your application or having an API on your site to allow other platforms to actually take those products and services and get your traffic off there instead, really. So that's probably the main impact.
Okay, so what is the next step for brands to sort of try to stay abreast of everything and keep the pace, really?
Okay, so I think brands need to start looking at investing in APIs if they don't already, and looking at that not as a commercial opportunity, but actually an in terms of selling that data from the API. But if you are business is primarily to shift a product or a service, to actually have that API available as a potential PR tool or as a way to actually earn traffic from other potential platforms. And then the second thing would be to look at things like schema.org, which is a type of structured data where you can tag up the content on your site to be better understood by search engines, essentially.
So in your session, you talked a lot about the loads of opportunities that SEO can bring brands, but what is the biggest challenge?
I think with SEO, it's actually very technical. So I think for larger brands, it's kind of a mixture between creative and technical, really. So usually the challenge is actually making the business case to invest in technical SEO opportunities, because the return on investment is actually a lot further off. So I think what usually is a better kind of scenario to take is some smarter SEO agencies. I guess I'd like to put myself in that mix, are starting to propose to clients like the ability for the agency to implement directly, or to have some form of CMS where they can overlay and practice and test that information through A/B tests to then build the business case to then roll that out.
Okay. I recently attended the Brighton SEO conference, and the most conversations were around voice search, how that's going to be the next big thing. You mentioned in your session that you don't think it's going to overpower the normal, sort of the usual search. So what's your take on that?
So Google this year said the voice search queries have kind of doubled in the past year, from like 9% to 20%. So it definitely has an explosion, but I think, voice search will never take away the fact that people like to type things. I mean, here we are at a conference, and I'd look like an idiot right now if I went, "Hey Siri, what's for dinner tonight?" So I think that's the main fundamental thing, and I think it is important. It's like it'll only be a percentage, but the volume of those queries can still grow massively. So I don't think that answers the question. I might just ramble off there about my dinner. Sorry.
No, that's fine. But if not voice search, then what do you think is the next big thing in SEO?
Okay, voice search? I don't know. No. I'd say a mixture of optimizing for voice search assistants and fundamentally investing in APIs, because Google is going to start progressively sending less traffic to websites, and it wants to answer the query themselves. They don't want to keep people in Google, so they're investing a lot more of their own vertical searches, comparison sites, and answers. And that's the next big in SEO, is actually having that little line that says answer brought to you by X, and that's where your brand's going to get visibility, really.